Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. My name's Tim Sedano. This is Paranormal Insight, and on today's show, we're doing the Mish Mosh, number 3. That's my phone going off. I should probably turn that down. So, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything under the sun in the paranormal world anyway. So, I guess maybe it's under the moon. It really doesn't matter. It happens at all times of the day, the paranormal, so we'll just stick with sun. Now that I've completely butchered that little thing there, let's talk about crazy coincidences. Or are they? I'm going to start off with a video originally uploaded by Now and Here. And they do all kinds of quasi-conspiratorial, semi-paranormal stuff that make you question what the truth is. That sounded very dangerous and such. And I think it comes with some weird music, so let me mute that. Maybe mute that. Oh, well. I can mute it on this side of things, I guess, if I gotta. But yeah, let's take a quick look at that. Whoops. Okay, here we go. I hope it's going. Is it going? Should be going. Why is it not going? It should be going. Why isn't it going? Okay, fun things with technology. Well, let me just kind of visual, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once and it's not really working that well. So basically what you saw there was a stone face in Guatemala. It's covered by vines, obviously quite forgotten, but it looks suspiciously like the Egyptian Sphinx. And there's an example of it down in the lower picture there. So as we there we go. Maybe it'll work now. It will work now. So let's try it again. I guess I got to be in a weird format for that to work, which is bizarre. But here we go. Here we go. Oh, it dropped. Oh, crazy. And I'm back. Small, but there I am. Okay, so while I get this back up, basically it's a comparison of the strange things across the globe. We have Guatemala and Egypt. Desperately apart. I mean, literally, or almost quite literally, almost opposite sides of the world. Roughly the same lateral, roughly, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but Guatemala, yeah, give or take. And they are showing similar things. So let me get this back up. You're going to have to forgive me. Well, yeah, get things squared away here. And this is as big as I can get it, and there may be music with it, but it's not mine. So here we are. We're looking at the Sphinx, or a Guatemalan version of it, potentially. It's gigantic compared to the other Sphinx, but look at the comparison. It's not far off, with pyramids in the near vicinity. Now, this camera operator points to a nearby mountain in the distance that looks surprisingly pyramidal. Surprisingly pyramidal. So what we've already discussed how at one point or another we were largely a well-oiled machine when Heidi's here. Hi Heidi, I just saw you popping in the chat. And good day to you too, ma'am. Miss. Lovely lady. I'll go with that one. So we've seen this already. We've seen that there are so many similarities between the pyramids and the statues, and granted, there were different interpretations of what was happening, but between the two different cultures, but they were springing up at roughly the same time. And if you delve into ancient astronaut theory, you can easily make a connection that says, oh, the aliens were flying around basically doing carbon copies of their culture across the globe. That is a simplified explanation and perhaps a far too easy explanation. It makes sense, but we're discovering more and more about our past because erosion is actually revealing our human past. Everyone keeps talking about Tartaria and Lu, or sorry, not Lu, Mu, and Atlantis, and all these ancient cultures we have tales about that were supposed to be surprisingly advanced compared to everyone around them. Excuse me. But we don't have concrete evidence of these things other than writings. No one went and said this conch shell or this head from a statue or a spoil of war. You know, we beat the Atlanteans in this war and we took a spoil. This is Atlantean culture. And put it up on a wall somewhere. That survived to this day, at least not to this day. And apparently the Atlanteans, and I keep going to them because they're the one most prevalently mentioned, are the ones that our ancients, specifically the Greeks, I'm referring to Pliny and Aristotle and a few other, was it Aristotle? Gotta check myself on that one. Mention. And throughout the Mediterranean. So it had to be around there somewhere. They were interacting with someone for multiple cultures in the Mediterranean to mention the exact same thing. I don't call that coincidence. I call that, an arrow, pointing towards something. And we, even today, think we may have found a version of that. Why isn't this clicking? There we go. Did that part. Sorry. Having fun with my program again. There we go. Nope. Okay. So when it comes to Egypt specifically, here's what we more or less know, and there are variations on this as well. Nope, that's not it. This thing just took a poop on me again. So I stopped the sharing and I reinvigorated the sharing. There we go. Okay, sharing that. There we go. So they had these big cement blocks, tons and tons, and they weren't necessarily that big. Sometimes they were, sometimes they were bigger. This is the AI drawing up roughly what I wanted it to do. And we have these people building these monuments. And as they did, they went through, it's documented, they went through planning stages. I don't know that they already had one built or anything like they show here. But again, this is AI. And I think he has a very modern tattoo right there. Someone wasn't paying attention. And look how neat the printing is. I mean, come on. I don't think it was that cool. So we have planners and apprentices and relatively rudimentary tools being seen. We see this thing. We see that weird shovel deal. I don't know what the heck that is actually. But this guy's a modern garb. He wouldn't be there. So AI kind of hosed this depiction. But overall, this is what they were doing. They had blueprints and plans and ideas for building these things. This is documented in their own writings. They actually put that out there on the stone walls. Here's the plan, here's what we did, and here's how we got there. They even told us how they built them. They quarried it from a nearby quarry. Well, nearby, it's a few miles away. Got these gigantic stones out, and we've seen them more or less partially carved, like someone stopped the project. We're not doing the pyramid thing anymore. Sorry. We lost the funding. Actually, all the slave labor just took a hike across the Red Sea, if you want to follow that story. But That's basically what happened. They lost, I'd say, if not probably close to 75% of the workforce because they had other slave labor. It wasn't just the Jews. But I'm talking about the Egyptians here. So they had other slave labor working for them, but the Jews were a pretty significant chunk of that labor, and they had decades and decades, hundreds of years even, of doing the Egyptians' bidding until, the Exodus. But suffice it to say, these guys were pretty prolific builders. This is not too much of an exaggeration, this picture here. I'll make it bigger for you. Again, these are AI generated things. And see the little person over here with the flag? Yeah, that's not too far off what was depicted. You have, this is where we start, this is where we end. So there was a flag person to tell you where to start. And look at all the labor they had. Look at all those guys. And that's probably not far off either. Some of this stuff is modern garb, and they're taking smaller little stones here. But as you can see, they have large pallets of bricks, these huge stones that are carved, and they were way more, dare I say, perfect than that. Because look at these guys here and here compared to what they're showing here. And they came pretty close here. So I don't know what AI was getting after there. Maybe these are rocks that had to be hewn still. Who knows? Another, and I don't know if this was shot down or not, but another theory was that, yes, they quarried the stones. And again, there's smithing there to part out a piece of this stone that are left there. They're unfinished. They're hanging, mostly carved out of the side of this rock face. These big, perfect blocks, and they're just hanging there. So the theory, the alternate theory was that they took those big blocks and mashed them all down into pulp, made a mortar out of it, cast that mortar into blocks, and then, that way they didn't have to haul the stones, multi-ton stones, over, 50, 60 miles, or if not more, to the nearest temple. That one personally doesn't make sense to me because we do, again, in the quarry today, we see a mostly excavated, carved out stone, probably a lower stone because it is gigantic. And yeah, so I think they took these big rocks out, and the carvings, the writings of how they built them actually show they used wet sand and a lot of pulling to actually move these blocks across the sand. That doesn't sound like, everyone says, no, they used conduction, they used other different things. Yes and no. They actually did a comparison. They actually cut out a block of, I don't think they used the original stone, but I think it was something similar, and they did a test in the desert. And there's a person, in the carvings, there's a person with a pouring a thing. They like their side profiles in Egypt. And it's pouring water or some liquid or another, perhaps an oil-water mixture, in front of the blocks. And there's someone spreading it out, and they're dragging the blocks along. And apparently it was easy to do on wet sand because basically it turns it into a ramp-ish kind of thing. And you've gone up and down dunes and stuff. That's going to make things way easier if you wet the sand. So they think wetting the sand or oiling the sand or some sort of oil-water combo is how they actually move these big things without destroying their labor force or the product itself. So, I mean, and if you're going to talk conventional means, something that mankind can do back then that we know of, that makes sense to a degree. However, there are many, many questions, and thank you for those who are watching. If you want to join us in the chat, please feel free. If you've got something to say on the subject, this is an open mic day. Okay, if you want to say something on the subject, you hop in the chat. You hop on with me. I'll give you the link, and you say, "I got something to say." We'll get you on the show. We'll do a quick little interview with you. Just make sure you want to actually say stuff about this stuff. I'm not going to tolerate tomfoolery. Just so you know. Okay, so as we look at this stuff and we say, "Oh, the comparisons are well," this is exactly what they did in South America, where we saw the Guatemala guys. Comparison. This is what got us started. I will go back for your convenience. So this is the image that basically got us started on this conversation. Sphinx, matching, pyramids in the background. But it helps if you hit the right thing, Tim. And then we got here. So they have the exact same architecture style between, well, not the exact same. There were flourishes and differences and what have you. But they had the same basic setup. They had rock they wanted to use in a quarry hundreds of miles away. They had the truck over all this land, and they may have done it with logs, but they also used the oil water method. And this is also written in both cultures, which is fantastic. I mean, the same building material, the same building methodology. Well, I'm sorry, not the same building material. They had different building material, but still. And let's not forget, and I don't have a picture of it, but let's not forget that I think it's Teotihuacan. Oh, I could be wrong about that. Starts with an H, maybe. Hey, Heidi, if you know, let me know. I'm talking about those H-shaped things that are in either Central or South America. Laser precision carved things. Starts with an H, something stones. Some of them are knocked over. Anyway, and they fit together like laser precision. How the heck do they do that? Well, now we're exploring alternate methodologies beyond the ability of mankind at the time. In fact, if you look at both Egypt and South America, you will find that the bulk of the really fancy, from the Great Pyramids to, I can. Oh, okay, good. I guess she'll research that to one degree or another for me. Thanks, Heidi. If you can't do it, don't worry about it. There was, so they all, my point I was getting to, that in both cultures, they built on top of or mimicked or tried to mimic older stuff, like the Sphinx, like the pyramids. So, that's interesting. I think maybe that's where Teotihuacan comes in, because they looked at Teotihuacan and they said, "Oh yeah, look at look how grand they were. They were able to fit these stones that weighed hundreds and hundreds of tons together. Underneath them, though, were megalithic stones that were from a completely different place. So the original base stones on which they built these things apparently were built on top of the ruins of an even older culture. And now we're going back into the first civilizations, if you will, here on Earth. Tartaria, Atlantis, yada, yada, yada. So there were phases of development of mankind. And I'm thinking it was the various ice ages that came in and kicked our butts back to the Stone Age repeatedly. Some of our stuff survived. Some of those people survived. Otherwise, there wouldn't be that much of a, but I think, especially in the case of Atlantis, if we're going to accept Atlantis, or even Tartaria or any of the others for that matter, that they isolated themselves rather specifically for the reason that they didn't want to interact with this up and coming human civilization because they were so far beyond them. Not too far beyond them. I mean, I don't honestly think they had flying cars and what have you back then in these first step, these first civilizations, if indeed they were the first civilizations. But they had reportedly, surprisingly impressive and complex architecture that was very similar to what we had in, say, the Roman days, the Greek days. Really complex structures like that, very ornate, able to hold a lot of weight, built from materials that were hewn to such a level of precision that it's hard to duplicate today without the use of lasers and stuff like that. So who's to say they didn't have it? Here's what I'm talking about when I talk about that, because in our ancient Egyptian exploration here, as I said before, I don't know what AI was thinking here. They tried, though. I'll give them that one. So here's stones being carried, smaller stones being carried by this weight thing. And you'll notice AI included a water siphon. There's water spilling out there. Isn't that interesting? Perhaps the AI latched onto something me and others are unaware of. Or perhaps it read the same story I did. But I found that very interesting that AI actually went there. I'll give you a larger look at that image rather. So see, there's water coming out of there. Or the car just taking a wee. I don't know. I'm going to say it's water. Meant to help ease this carriage device forward if we're going to assign that much, intellect to the AI artistry. But, okay. So here's a modern look at things. So as we delve, sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here a little bit. Welcome to Mish Mosh. Let's go back to this guy. So we have this. They're mimicking. Are they getting it right? Pretty close. But if you look at the step pyramids next to the Great Pyramids, the construction effort is relatively the same, except when you get to the skin of the pyramid. That is where that laser precision really comes in. But not just there, because if you go into, and that's why I came here, go into the inner chambers of some of these large, especially the Great Pyramid, the big one, where there is but one sarcophagus. That's not really a sarcophagus. And it's absent of any writing, as this image shows. I'll blow that up for you. It was apparently an early power distribution system, and they did it through quartz-laced granite. Quartz-laced granite. And that's what the obelisks were. They were conductors. In fact, if you read the language on the obelisks, they gave thanks to certain gods for the knowledge, and they said, this is what it's for. Now, there's some speculation that whatever forces were around that were trying to keep humans in the dark and keep humans at the pinnacle of things, I might add, went in and erased or chipped off the explainer on these obelisks and other stuff. Not necessarily in the king's chamber, but yeah. So again, that's pure speculation. I have no, that's just an opinion that went out. And once again, thanks to those watching. If you got something to say, hop on in the chat. You can go get there via our either of our YouTube channels, Paranormal _Insight. In fact, I'll make a banner for that. Okay. So you can go to www.youtube.com/ at paranormal underscore insight. If I could spell it correctly, that'd be super nice. Insight/streams. And you should be able to get to, it's in the live tab. It's on right now. So you can go there, hop into our chat, and say, hey, I got something to say about your crazy Egyptian / Mesopotamian thing. Or you can agree or disagree. Just bring it up for debate. This is how you get there. And I am going to do that now. And there it is on the bottom. I should scroll it, but I'm not going to. So go there, hop in the thing. If you want to, either challenge or agree or debate or talk further about a certain aspect of what we're talking about today, please feel free. It's I'd welcome it, and I'll give you the link. You can hop on for a little bit. I reserve the right to cut you off if you get bombastic and rude, so don't do that. But yeah, come on down. Keep finding Pumapunku. Yeah, Pumapunku H blocks. Thanks, Heidi. That's exactly right. Pumapunku. Yeah, they're not that big. Some are, but not really. They're about the size of a person. They're H-shaped blocks, and they're about the size of people. That's kind of goofy. And yeah, thanks again to Heidi for finding that. Heidi's our super fan in the chat and on many of our different UPRN shows. She likes this esoteric stuff. She kind of lives an esoteric life herself, and she's awesome. And Heidi, we got to get you on the show. In fact, why don't you jump in and join us and let me know what you think about all this stuff, if you're so inclined. No pressure. I'm going to continue until I see you. So, oh, you are? Groovy. Yeah, come on in. That'd be awesome. What was I going to say? So we have this chamber that is laser precise. You can't even fit a piece of paper between these blocks. The squared off areas. Oh, okay. You're getting ready for a doctor's appointment. No worries, Heidi. That's fine. No pressure. Whenever we can get you on, I'd be happy to have you on. I'm just saying. So yeah, inner bits of the Great Pyramid are cut laser precise, and they're blackened, scored. We don't know with what. Probably something really hot. And then, there's those big long coils that are underneath the pyramid that run down approximately a mile. A mile. So I find it hard to believe that we would have, even with these first civilizations, maybe, but there is a level of engineering and technology. And again, the first civilizations, Tartaria, Atlantis, were reportedly, I'm going to put that word out there, underline it, bold, italicize that word. Reportedly, if you prefer, were advanced enough to pull this off because they were basically at 19th, 20th century level when they went for whatever reason, which is fascinating. Part of my drink. And we have similar precision in Mesopotamia. Not Mesopotamia. I used the wrong word before. I just realized it. In the South African region. Mesoamerican is what I was going for. So, apologies for the confusion on that. Heidi, hey, anytime you want to come on, you got my email, you say, Tim, I got something to say, or whatever, or you want to be on, or you want to visit for a minute, come on down, Heidi. You're totally welcome. But let us move on. So we have this, and then we go. Again, we're back at this. Now, I want to say something about the Sphinx, and that is this. They expect, man, I can't use words today. They're just groovy, Heidi. I'd love to see you here when you can get on. But I was going to say, they think that the lion portion, the lower body of the Sphinx here, I don't know why that temple circle is not there in real life. But again, AI just went, hey, I think I'll follow through. AI, I love it. Anyway, that the lion idea here was big pardon, an intact, sorry, when I talk too much, I yawn. I got to get a reduction in my time. I need to go to 1 hour, I think. But not till New Year. How about that? Actually, that's something to talk to Michelle about. Excuse me. So they think the Sphinx originally had a lion's head on it. Now, before we go to the lion's head, let's talk about alternate conveyances. Here we have like the exact same idea. It still has water coming out the side to move it along, but this is being conducted by some sort of anti-gravity field. It took me forever to tell AI what I wanted to do with this photo, because they kept putting UFOs in the background and Star Trek looking character aliens. It was freaking bizarre. I said, no, just levitate the stupid thing, and they finally did it. So that there was an alternate conveyance. Why do some people say that? Because they say if they had the Baghdad battery. Hey, Cherry's on. Woohoo! How's it going? Hello. Welcome to the chat. I've extended this invitation to those in the chat and those watching that if you want to join me today, I'm happy to send you the link if you want to talk about topics. If not, sit back and enjoy. I'm still going. So anyway, going back to what I was saying, if they did have some sort of conveyance beyond simply dragging these stones, and I'm talking about the bigger stones, they put comparatively little stones on the sled here. Some sort of magnetic, or what's that called? Help me out, chat. When you levitate something with a magnet, it's use cold to get it there, throw something. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, you're using some sort of electrical conveyance. They had the Baghdad battery. They had the ability to create their own power portably. You had to empty this thing out of its wine or orange juice or whatever was in there, using it as a catalyst to generate a charge. But nonetheless, they had the ability. I find that very, very fascinating, because if you have the ability to do that, you have the ability to make one of these realistically. Because we could do it today. And what is the name of that thing where you pour a little nitrogen on a metal surface, or you not even a metal surface, but something conduction, electrothermic conduction or something like that. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, that's what I'm going for here. So if you got that, you could do that theoretically, and probably realistically, if you don't care about using 10,000 of these things, which they probably could in a heartbeat, because they're not that hard to make. So there we go. So this guy, the Sphinx guy here, was originally, they suspect, capped with not a human head, but a lion's head, as you might expect. When I told AI to turn the Sphinx into a real lion, it gave me this weird-ass thing with Grecian temples in the back. You can see a hint of a pyramid there, but I mean, they just went all over the place. This is the closest I can get, so hopefully you'll bear with me. So it was really a lion. Now, it was really a lion way before Egypt was even a place, man. It's like they took over. I call you Cherry Sherry? I meant Sherry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I'm very happy to have you here. Again, for those of you who are watching, if you want to join, it's open mic day, and I'll give you a link. You can pop on with me if you have the ability to do so. If you got a camera and a laptop, relatively stable connection, you can say hey and ask a question, make a comment. That's what today is all about. Not just me prattling on about my theories. But again, it was a lion, and it was a lion a very, 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 very long time before the Egyptian Empire even really came into being. It was there already. And that is evidenced by these waterline marks, all the striation by sand and water, by wind and water. Crazy stuff. That's all I have to say about that. That's a blank page. Okay. I don't know why that's a blank page. Let me get out of it real quick because I don't know what's happening there. Oh, okay. Right. I know what that is. Okay. So let's go to me real quick. But given these parallels, given the fact that they had these cultures, it doesn't surprise me that we are seeing similarities across the globe. And it's not just Mesoamerica and Egypt, ancient Egypt. I think Indonesia has something very similar. I think pretty much anything along that weird parallel where Egypt is, pretty close to the equator. They like it there. Whoever these people were that were spreading this technology. Now, this also brings into mind, as I point to myself, the story of Australia and its visit by ancient Egypt, which is pretty cool. Now, recently, people have said, nope, that entire idea and story is a hoax. Because they mention people from all over Egyptian history that would never have met each other. It's a very good hoax because they got the language right. Very good hoax. But Ramses II never met Ptolemy I, for example. At least I don't think so. That's a weird example, and I'm not even sure I'm correct in my timeline. But suffice it to say that, if it is a hoax, it's a really good hoax because it took someone going tink, 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 or maybe they had a rotor on a battery, who knows. But they etched out some very convincing hieroglyphics that actually were in the correct order. It's just they made mention of the wrong things, which I find very interesting. But the long and the short of the hoaxed story was that at one point, Egypt makes it to Australia. And it's a prince that leads the charge, so to speak, the exploration charge. And they find that what we know today all too well is that Australia is home to 90% of the world's most poisonous animals and insects and arachnids and, pretty much everything's looking to kill you with a bite, pretty much. Lots of poisonous things there. And he gets bit by a hunter spider, apparently, this prince, and they don't have, the local, the medicine people they bring with them don't have any clues. They make contact with the locals, the aborigines. They can't help him. They said, nope, he's a goner. Just say your prayers, do a ritual, get him out of there. And so in this hoax's narrative, they lay out the fact that, okay, well, he was bitten by a spider, he lasted 2 weeks, then he died. We took the body back with us. Makes sense, except, again, they mentioned people from disparate eras. I mean, they weren't even It was like by hundreds and hundreds of years they wouldn't have known each other unless those emperors and pharaohs and what have you were living hundreds and hundreds of years, which has been suspected, by the way, that they had a means by which to extend their life, which is interesting. And if you want to go into biblical study, Moses lived for like 500 years. One of the knights, Templar, who walked out of the desert after 250 years, didn't look a day over 50, or something like that. He died of extreme old age. That was from Indiana Jones, actually. They featured that story in that movie. And, but it was the method by which they survived that gave them longevity. And in fact, modern science is revealing that humans back then didn't eat 3 times a day because there weren't resources to eat 3 times a day. They ate maybe once a day, maybe. Definitely had water every day, but they didn't eat but once a day, maybe once every 3 days. And it wasn't for fasting's sake. It wasn't for their health like we do today. No, it is said that they just ate at that thing, no matter how busy they were. They just didn't get hungry like we did. And apparently we were even a little bit taller back then. And not shorter, but taller, which I find fascinating. What was I going to say? So these various things that come into play are... I'm sorry. Again, we Mish Mosh. I'm kind of jumping channels here on you, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to stay on theme, but these little bits and pieces keep popping in my head, and hey, that's what Mish Mosh is all about. So, as we talk about food and fasting and what was going on back then, they're saying that we, as humans, did not eat that much. We ate for sure, but every day, every 2 days, every 3 days, have a reasonable meal just before, I think just before bed, if I remember correctly. And then you're good for the next couple of days, but for some water or wine or whatever you wanted to drink. And yeah. Now, the theory is that this extended human life because you were provided an environment that was a bodily environment, a biome, if you will, that was limited in resources. For example, I'm diabetic. I eat 3 times a day. And in the past, I've eaten a lot of horrible stuff that left me vulnerable to become diabetic. However, if I were living like our ancestors purportedly did, eating once or a day or once every 3 days or whatever it is, I would not be able to provide the that mechanism, and or some say it's parasites and stuff like that. I'm still researching that myself, but I don't have anything concrete on that. It makes sense, but we wouldn't have a biome that would support that type of thing. In fact, it may invade our bodies, may get us a little sick even, but you just get rid of it because it just doesn't have enough fuel to survive, short of killing the host. And if you kill the host, you kill the parasite or whatever it is. So it was few and far between illness. It was there, and you were susceptible to it if you were really young or really old. Kind of like today. So, I mean, things haven't really changed that much for the human species. If you take a really broad step back and say, how about that? Do a little examination. But one of the things, apparently I'm going through a second puberty here, one of the things that really strikes me about all of that is, what if some of our legends about being, life being prolonged is in fact true because we had this in place as a norm, a norm where, come over for a meal. Oh, it's been 3 days, I haven't eaten. Sure, I'll come over for a meal. When did we get into the 3 meal a day thing? Maybe someone who's watching or someone who's on the chat knows that and would like to hop on. Again, it's open mic day. You can come on board. Come on down. I'll give you a link. I'll let you speak your piece. If you happen to know when we took up the 3 meals a day thing, let me know. I think it was relatively recent, comparatively. Maybe in the last 400 years. Maybe. And maybe it was a thing that, we were keeping up with the Joneses, as it were. We saw our rich and our elite and our kings and queens and emperors and whoever else way back in the day, living on hog, as it were. But there's a pun there, and it's stupid, and I apologize. But we had these higher ups who were eating better, getting and living at a enhanced lifestyle. Really, they were living better than, say, the pig farmer, for example. And granted, he had all this meat around him, but he had to sell most of it, and he probably didn't eat a lot of pork. He probably had chickens on the hand too, and stuff like that. So it wasn't that the resources weren't there, it's just they weren't as strained as they are now. So you have to kind of think about how we have turned food into a massive commodity in the modern day. Whereas back in the old days, if you had a couple of chickens and a cow, you were set for, the life of those animals, and they breed all the time. So there you go. I mean, natural. You could live off 2 chickens and a cow, a rooster and a hen and you get my point. And I don't mean butchering the cow necessarily. I mean milking the cow, because you can make butter and cheese and all the rest of it. Grow a few crops, which you probably also have to sell off. I mean, the agrarian lifestyle back then was everybody's lifestyle. Even the elites, even the kings and queens and emperors, they had their own stuff for the castle and the staff. And they would have these ginormous feasts. It wasn't every day, though. It was like once a month, once every 2 months. And you would have finite resources available to you when you went out to hunt, if you needed to hunt. And I know I'm talking Dark Ages times. Even back then, they were living off 1 meal a day. Maybe some breakfast. Maybe not. I think that's really fascinating. I would be inclined to try that myself. And they would call it fasting today. Oh, fasting, you gotta fast. Well, if you recall, if you dig into the internet about fasting, you're looking at it's not necessarily an Eastern or Eastern, I'll call it Eastern, idea. Now, they were doing that all over the place. Fasting, yeah, sure. For them, since they ate once or twice every couple of 3 days, fasting was like a week. And they did it for preventative purposes, not just peace of mind. Although there was that aspect to it in some of the more spiritual communities. And I'll say things like your Tibetan temples and Buddhist temples and stuff like that. But and that was certainly there. And even the early Catholics did stuff like that. The monks were fasting all the time, and they were eating the same thing, like once or twice every couple 3 days. So to truly fast was a 5 or 10 day fast. It's like, I'm gonna go without for a bit. Really kind of get in touch with my higher self and yada yada yada. So when did the 3 meal a day thing start? Some say it was a commercial idea introduced way early on. Not too early, but I know we were doing 3 meals a day during the American Civil War, and that was a global thing for the most part, in Western societies across the globe. Beg your pardon. But when did it come into play? Was it pre-revolutionary? And I have to go by the American calendar. I'm sorry, because I don't really have a good mind for other timelines and other cultures and other places in the world, really. So I have to liken it in the American calendar first, calendar of events first, and then I can expand out. That's a personal foible, but not foible, but deficiency, I guess is the word. So, Revolutionary War era in America. Yeah, hunt free food. I think they were doing something similar. I think they were doing twice a day, eating twice a day, maybe twice every. Mort says hello, Mort. Maybe a little more often, but the further you travel back, the less we were eating 3 meals a day. It was like I said. So that's, again, we're in the Mish Mosh, kids. This is how Mish Mosh works. It's Tim's stream of thought. I have a construct of things I want to talk about, but I am allowed to go off on these tangents, and I hope you enjoy the said tangents more. As I've explained to our audience and those watching it at home, not in the chat, I'm inviting you. This is open mic. If you got something to say about what I'm discussing or have discussed, and I laugh because I've been all over the map on today. I will be happy to send you a little invite, a little link to get on the show and talk with me about it if you're so inclined to come in on the air with me. Yeah. So that I again extend that invitation not only to those in the chat, but those watching who want to get into the chat and make that request. Okay. We are looking at 53 minutes into the first hour, and I'm so fascinated by the food thing. When did that happen? Meals 3 times a day. We don't need it. Not really. I've already started to do a 12-hour fast every day. Now, that might sound like, Tim, that's nothing. Everyone does a 12-hour fast. Well, you do and you don't. If you have ice cream at night, like I used to all the time, you're not really fasting after dinner. So, okay, you finish your dinner, what? Average, it's about 6 or 7. You finish dinner. You have a little dessert around 8 or 9. And you go to sleep around 10, 11, midnight, something like that. Typically. I mean, especially if you got the 9 to 5 going for you. So, let's say you're in bed by midnight, asleep by midnight. You wake it up at 6 or 7. And so that's 6 hours of sleep. Not enough, by the way, according to some people. We could talk about sleep in another time. But there is that aspect of it. And you are doing, and that's why they call it breakfast, because you're breaking your fast. In case you didn't know that, now you do. But you have a meal. A beginning of the day meal, and you're hungry for it. You can feel it. There are those saying, and I've been practicing this myself, kind of by rote more than anything. I didn't even focus on say I'm going to try this. I'm only eating when I'm hungry, and I don't get hungry till about the time the show comes on. So I eat like a half hour before, and I'm not hungry again till like 5 or 6. So, I mean, roughly 2 meals a day. Roughly. It's helped a little bit. I've lost some weight because of it. I'm careful about what I eat anyway because of the diabetic condition. But I recommend it. Now, if you got the extra pounds like I do, fasting is great. It's a nice little thing. You'll get your weight down, and it's not going to hurt you. You're not going to go curl up in a ball. Now, if you're a skinny mini, and I use that term as I'm trying not to be mean or negative or whatever, but if you're an especially trim individual, you know, you got a great metabolism. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, if you can see your own ribs, maybe eat a sandwich, but, as the joke goes, but I'm going to suggest, and this is only a suggestion based on my experience, that if you are, a trimmer individual, you don't need to fast. You're fine. I don't necessarily even think you need to eat 3 times a day either, for that matter, because I see, and very recently I saw this, that it's a matter of kind of foraging, which is interesting, which is say some dietitians say you shouldn't do, and but others do. That don't rather say that. Sorry, they say you shouldn't do it. Others say you should. That you just forage and eat as you're hungry. Just be careful what it is. Make sure it's natural stuff, and what have you. Sorry. I've been playing with this bottle cap, and I'm probably ticking you all off. I apologize for that random sound in the background. But yeah, food, interesting. It's a huge thing today. It's on everyone's mind today because we see these poor people in lesser situations compared to, say, America, that are hungry and starving. And we have our hungry and starving here in the States too. Again, I'm not trying to be too terribly centralist, but I live in this country, and that's all I really know. Firsthand, I should say. That's all I really know firsthand. So, you'll forgive my American position on that, I hope. Not that I'm apologizing for being an American. I'm just saying I'm kind of limited because I have a big country and we all do pretty much the exact same thing. But I digress. Let's talk. Actually, it's the top of the hour. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We are going, if I can find it, if it's here, there it is. We're going to do a quick little break, and you will notice in this break that there's a little advertisement for the 2 books I wrote called the TOL. Why don't you remember that for the next segment? See you in 180 seconds, or minute 14. All right, ciao. This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Long ago in the ancient world, the Trebus Omnes Lux, later known as the Tridents, were celebrated heroes, defenders of humanity against unspeakable monsters. Today, they continue that sacred duty in secret, hunting the dark evils that lurk just beyond the shadows. They are the Trident of Light.
Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, ask questions, and see what chilling paranormal stories we're following. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos. Hello and welcome back. You will notice that everything cleared. How fun. I hate it when that happens. That just ticks me off to no end. I was going to share something with you, and I'll share. Here it is. Okay, we're back to sharing. You saw the promo where we talked about that. You could, I don't know if you can hear it or not. There he is. Let me mute this. There we go. Nope. I said mute. There we go. So you saw the trailer for this. This is the TOL, the Trident of Light, the Tribus Omnis Lux, and there's our three good guys, our heroes. I wanted to share this with you because we are pushing to make a series, a film out of this. And when I say pushing, let me tell you, let me show you a little something. If it goes, there you go. Didn't go. Did it go? There we go. There's the two book covers. See if I can get this to just, slideshow only. Yeah, slide only. Okay. There we go. That's better. It didn't do it on this thing though. This thing. Okay. Well, lots of fun there. It's not showing up. So I gotta stop it and reintroduce it. But so I had these two books out, and there's a third one on the way. I have been, shall we say, distracted with other things, namely my filmmaking. I've had a bunch of projects happening. I have the Blaney Tucker's Ghost, which came out, which I wish I had the foresight to put a poster up of, but I don't have it. Maybe I could drop it in real quick. But anyway, so here are the two book covers for book 1 and 2. They are available. When you hunt for book 1, and that's the subtitle, TOL book 1, that's how you're going to find it. But you got to look for the second edition, because the first one won't come up. The first edition was poop, in my personal estimation. There's not that much of a difference in change, but I think the cover art's different, and this little blurb wasn't here. In the second book, we follow the same three heroes, which you saw featured in the other little thing here. If I can track it, if I can backtrack it. Let me see. Let me get to the thing. These guys. Now, these are AI generated characters, obviously. We just shot something where we bring these characters to life, or we're actually in the process of replacing these digital characters with the real ones, which I'm super excited by. I'm super excited by that. And yours truly is involved, as not only as the filmmaker and writer of the script, but as the one of the characters. And let me see if I can back it up for a second and pause it. Okay, so you see this bald guy right here? This fella? Yeah, that's who I'm playing. I'm actually in it. Yes, I am a classically trained actor who put himself in his own movie. Now, it wasn't because I'm vain, because I'm not. I don't think I am anyway. But I couldn't find anyone to fill the role. And since I kind of based him on me in the first place, at least the physical aspects of it, and I had the acting training to pull it off. It's not even that hard of a role to portray. So I played him. And there you have it. So there's the book covers again. Well, now let me show you what else we did. These are some behind the scenes shot of our second day of filming, which was fun. It was super fun. So if you can't see it too well, this lady right here and right here is the blonde lady in the I'll have to go back. Hold on. I should have brought up a comparison. So is the blonde lady here. So she's the trio. I'm the bald guy on the far side with the Hawaiian shirt. And as we move forward here, this thing. No, come on. It's not cooperating. There we go. So, okay, so there's those two. Where's the other guy, you ask? Well, he's there. When I was putting together the slideshow, I hadn't gotten the photos back yet, and clipping from the the movie itself, I'm still in dailies. It's a part of the editing process. So I didn't really have an opportunity to insert him into these behind the scenes things. And I'm sorry for that, Charleston. I'm terribly sorry. The actor's name is Charleston. But there's so we also have here, and you can't see Tiff too well, but I'm going to point him out here on the thing. So that's Millie is this one. Tiffany is this cute thing here. And this adorable, lovely lady here is Serafina. Those are their characters' names. Millie, Tiffany, and Serafina. Now, Millie, this beautiful creature right here, is all three of them actually are witches in the story. And as you can see, they go through some painful things at one point or another, and they are playing their craft. And you see this cute, this beautiful redheaded woman here. It's a bad picture because she's out of focus there in that promo pic, but that's Gloria. The character's name is Gloria, and they're all members of the TOL. Well, this is the main team of monster hunters that go out, or part of it anyway. The witches here and Gloria. Well, Gloria is, gosh, without giving too much away, she's kind of a field liaison between headquarters and the teams around in the field, which we are. And our witches here are newly joined members. There was an alliance that was struck, and it's with them, the Trinity of Claresforth is what we call them. And well, okay, I'm not going to say too much. There's an alliance with witches and a couple of monster factions as well, which is a lot of fun. We really had a lot of good fun putting this together. So, this thing just fails on me left, right, and center all the freaking time. That's just painful. Okay. So, let me go back here. Are we having fun yet? Good. Okay. So, the story of the... Let me get here. So, the story of the TOL is basically that of a... There we go. This just don't recognize, man. It doesn't. Yeah, it's not playing right now. So, I'll stop the sharing. The story of the TOL is basically a story of what starts out as bitter enemies coming. I had a phone call. Sort of feels. Welcome back, Heidi. Heidi just let us know she got off a phone call. I hope everything's okay. You sound a little distressed there. What was I going to say? Okay, so TOL. TOL is basically the story of what at first starts out as bitter enemies. I mean, we have monster hunters out there, defeating evil, like the trailer tells you. And as we go through things, we find that there is a larger threat. And this is kind of the case in a lot of historical stuff. That's kind of where I pulled it from. A little bit of history. Where, and we see this in nature too. A good example are monkeys. Believe it or not, chimps specifically. So not monkeys, but chimps. Although I think all the ape families do it to one degree or another. So if you have chimp 1 and chimp 2, and maybe they get along, and maybe they don't, and then you introduce orangutan into the same environment, the two chimps are going to hug it out and stay close together. Now they have security. And now they have a common foe, for lack of a better term, a common enemy. And they either temporarily or permanently unite against that threat. Well, that's kind of how the TOL initially works. And it takes our lead guy, John Lantry, I'm so sorry, Charleston. I don't have pictures of you anywhere. I'm gonna see if I can dig a couple of those up because, yeah, we should definitely have you up there. But anyway, not during the show, unfortunately. But check back. I'm going to be putting more stuff up about the film up on the Paranormal Insight thing because the studio one I had set up was spoofed. Hate hackers sometimes. My password was not my password anymore, and it's a whole thing. And no one would help me over at the meta place. So I had zero recourse, which is a shame, really. But anyway, so we're going to be promoting this initially through through Paranormal Insight on Instagram. And if I have an opportunity to open up another account, yada, 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 I will. We do have a website which is being constructed to support TOL. And then there's a trailer up there right now. So let me put that up in the banners. Whoops, banners, Tim, banners. Okay. That is, if you want to go there and learn a little more about it, you can. You're going to see the same trailer. And hey, I can't type. Make sure I said that correctly. Scruffy. Yep, I messed up. Okay, there it is. And that banner. Okay, so there it is. I think. Is it there? Oh no, show. There it is. So if you want to, nope, that's the YouTube one. I hide. I show. Okay. There it is. So if you want to go check out scruffytux.com, feel free. Learn a little bit more about the TOL. Just a little bit more because it's just the trailer right now. Like I said, we're still building this right now. We just wrapped all the footage, all the shooting rather, this last weekend. So it's been between my behind the scenes photographers getting all that stuff to me, everyone else who took pictures getting stuff to me. So I'm still building the promotional reel, as it were, where we can show all this fun behind the scenes stuff. And we'll have another segment on this next time on Paranormal Insight. So you get to follow along. And I hope you'll forgive the self promotion, but we're getting a lot of interesting interest because David over at Down the Rabbit Hole put together a little press package, and I wish I could show it here, but I didn't have the foresight to put it into the slideshow because he put it together yesterday. I wish I thought about it, but I didn't. Regardless, he put together a little event, a little challenge, if you will. Let's read the TOL together and get it made into a movie. Well, I'm half a step ahead. You already shot a nice, we'll call it well, it is an episode. The idea is to make this into a television series, but we shot a kind of a concept piece for the show, and we have all the most of the characters in it, and the mythology, the mythology's there, and the main characters are there. So we're building it. It is being built. We're actually going to have something to show in the very near future, and that's going to be on a new distribution network. Again, I don't have a slide for it. Wow, I didn't think I'd get this deep into the whole thing, but sorry, I'm glitchy. I saw this real. Oh yeah, okay. Heidi likes it. Windy here, and I'm under an ancient electrical pine elemental giving squirrels snacks. Okay. Heidi's having fun with our connection, apparently. I'm sorry, Heidi. I wish you had, like, whatever it is, 4G, whatever the non-dangerous one is. I think 5G is supposed to be dangerous. Don't quote me on that. I'm not positive. But anyway, hopefully we get the high-def stuff outside at one point or another. Maybe a little dish. Just aimed right at that area. Actually, no, don't do that. Well, let me talk a little bit more about this, if you'll indulge me, and then we'll move on to something else. Because I thought I could talk about TOL for an hour, and I totally can, but no one's asking me questions. So, and I don't want to give too much away. But we did film something for this as a concept piece. Like I said before, there is another concept piece out there. It's on YouTube. If you look up Monster Hunters of the TOL, I can maybe I can banner that one too. I'm sharing TOR. Oh, it's TOL actually, not TOL, TOR. But cool. Yeah, please share away. That's awesome. And so we're starting our promotional campaign for this film, this venture, this idea to get the TOL out there. Book 3 is coming, with any luck, soon. I'm about halfway through the book, so, and I'm kind of busy, so I got to edit this film, and oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, Heidi. It's fine, but the idea of getting this thing put together, it's all in, we're at the beginning stages of this. So if you want to know more about the TOL, I'm putting it together now. We have so little about it. There's an earlier piece out there, an earlier concept piece that was shot back in 2019, just prior to the big sick that hit everybody. I'm not even sure that's a real term, but I'll use it. But one of the, so we were starting to ramp up and we're getting recognition. People knew what we were making, and then the big sick happened. And the idea of what we were making kind of got lost. And I kept trying to keep it alive. We were doing lots of Zoom meetings back in the day, and there was just too much other stuff falling into place that had, I guess, more of a commitment behind them. And we don't have A-listers. If anything, in this project, we are making stars. And I'm going to kind of insist on that. I have one or two people I could throw in as far as if we need an A celebrity to kind of move it along for whatever reason. I have a couple of characters available that have not been cast yet, but I like to keep the current roster of players, and I'll make this as independently as humanly possible. If that, but if someone throws a check at us and says, "Yeah, make what you want," the idea is to make names, new names. I mean, I'm kind of sick of the old names personally, for the most part. Not everybody, but you can only watch Brad Pitt play a 20-year-old so many times. I'm just saying. Not that he has recently, and not that anything against Mr. Pitt, but I mean, we need some fresh blood out there, kids. And I definitely have fresh faces, fresh talent, and they're all amazing actors. I come from an acting background, so I kind of know what I'm talking about. Kind of nothing. I know what I'm talking about. So these guys, these actors did phenomenal. Even the background people were freaking amazing. I mean, they took direction beautifully, just beautifully, and they handled themselves professionally. I was expecting to be reining in a bunch of kindergarteners, to be completely honest. As the director of this piece, I wasn't. Not at all. I'm very proud of the way they behaved, and that they didn't take themselves too seriously, which is another reason I want to build these people up as future celebrities and stars and get them more work outside the TOL. Although, if I have my druthers and I get my dream and all that fun stuff, and I can provide you, all of you, a larger, something else to watch, I'm all for it. Absolutely. And I'd be more than happy to put that content out. In fact, if we get this done, and this is the only thing I'm known for, fantastic. I am done. I am pleased as punch. Plain and simple. So, yeah, the TOL has a lot to offer. What does it have to offer, you might ask? Well, since no one's asking me questions, I had to feed myself my own questions. Seriously, guys, come get some. I got 8 live views right now, plus the people in the chat, and no one's talking to me. You obviously have questions, but I'll ask the questions for you. That is okay. So if you look to book number 2 over here, and I have those killer titles, book 1, book 2. Whew, that was just a lot of thought. No, that was complete lack of imagination because I couldn't think of subtitles for these things. So there you go, a little inside thing that'll come up in a future Comic-Con thing one of these days, or film festival Q&A. Couldn't think of anything else. Book 1, book 2, that's all. But within each of these books, we probably have. I've seen to it that we have at least 16 episodes per book to cover the book. We can expand that because there's a ton of little stories in there that are really cool, in my personal estimation. And when I was writing this, I wanted to put something together that, one, I thought was cool, that I would want to watch myself, being a sci-fi and fantasy fan. And that's kind of who this is for. It's been compared to Supernatural. It's been compared to X-Files. It's been compared to Ash versus the Evil Dead to one degree or another, which I kind of get. And it also has a secret war, not to be confused with the whole Marvel thing, but it has that secret war element, like it's all happening behind people's backs. No one's really aware of what's going on, except maybe a couple governmental agencies. Maybe. I'm still toying with that idea. In the 3rd book, I actually got a sample chapter started on that idea, but I keep running all kinds of different things like, do we really want to go there? Because as cool as it might be, I got problems with it, only because there's just a ton of logistical stuff that you have to include in your story to make it look plausibly real. It's like, is this really happening to one degree or another? Are there really hunters out there taking out vampires, werewolves, zombies, necromancers, witches of the evil sort? Possibly. I'd be really, really surprised if it was happening today in the modern era, but to put it in the modern era is to put it in our laps and to draw parallels between, the real human experience and what our characters face on a weekly basis. So, having said all that fun stuff, let me get back to the paranormal. Now, the TOL hunt monsters, vampires, werewolves, zombies, all that fun stuff as described. And that is kind of where we dig into the paranormal. Now, when I was creating this, this first came to me very early on. About 1995 or something like 94, 95, something like that. It's very early on. And I put together some ideas about how I wanted to look and feel and all that fun stuff. And it took a while to really put that together. One of the main things that got me really kind of rolling on it and sticking to it, because I've been doing it since, like I said, 94, 95. I've been really kind of putting this idea together. And I tried some student versions of the episodes, and they did not pan out. They were so horrible. And never will they be seen again. But for my poor film teachers' memories, but and the students who had to endure it because they're all over the map. I digress. But that's how we learn, kids. We make mistakes and we learn the lessons they teach us. As TOL developed from the mid '90s to now to even the early aughts, it was a matter of really kind of making staking a claim that the TOL could be based on something. And that's kind of where the books come in, because I have the idea for the movie in my head first. That's kind of unusual. So the movie was in my head first. I wrote out a few scripts. I banked them off my film class. Bounced them. Ha! I said banked. I meant bounce them off my film class, fellow students, teachers, those I respected in the field who I had contact with, and said, okay, what do you think of the idea? Great idea. Lay it out on film and see how it works. So, like I said, a few student shorts later, I learned what did and did not work, that the story was complex enough that I couldn't tell it via green screen all the time because there's a lot of environmental interaction. But I digress. From that part anyway. So as we move forward and we get to closer to 2019, I come up with a script that features the beginnings of an idea. And the idea is that while we're dealing with these paranormal entities, which I'm drawing from personal experience and lore that I'm aware of, and all kinds of research, making sure that, one, if I'm borrowing from a foreign country, that I get the language right, like how they pronounce things. Two, that creature isn't some sort of, how do I put this, a holy relic, or seen as a force for good. Like I can make fun of it. I can shout obscenities at it in the book. Not that we do that really, but well, kind of. But and I'm not going to really offend anyone. So as long as it was universally bad, I guess is the word, we could attack that monster on multiple levels. In the books, especially in the first book, we face a lot of different creatures. As the reader, you're going to see, and I should also add, not only do we see vampires and werewolves and zombies, but we also see human monsters. Those who are touched by, not necessarily possessed, but they have a darkness to them that's just plain old wicked. And those are tough to write because I'm not really a wicked person myself, but I had to really kind of delve into research, do a little creativity here and there to really kind of bring some of these guys to a dark life, if you will. Which was, again, it was a little tough because I'm not a sadistic person, but some of these people had to exude a sadistic quality in order to get some of our supporting and even lead characters to where they are now. So, and there's some graphic stuff in there, especially in the first book. There was graphic stuff in both of them. I'm not afraid of gore. It's not gory. I wouldn't say it's Freddy Krueger style gory, modern or otherwise, but it's definitely has a gore factor to it. And some of you are going to go, "Ugh," but I mean, not really. I hope you don't anyway. But read the books for yourselves, find out. So there is a reading campaign to get these books really have a larger audience than it already does. So if you want to help support that endeavor, I would be more than grateful, because I think they deserve to be read. and enjoyed, and hopefully they will be. But they also, I think, as others, especially David and a few others have said, and what I have just recently put together myself, feel that the books are fantastic fodder and a great playground for an audience to experience as a television series or a film series, but preferably for my preference would be a television series. I think it would give us way more freedom to tell all aspects of everyone's stories because we have complex characters and complex situations behind, through which these characters experience the world. Thank you very much for the thumbs up. And we have a how do I put this? A linear a method. They go through a journey that obviously, of course, they don't go through a journey, Tim, like all characters do. But their hero's journey is not the typical hero's journey. Yes, they have their foibles and issues to overcome, but we see for the first time the other side of the so-called bad guys. I don't think everyone's really taken a look at the so-called bad guys before, really gone into their histories, why they are the way they are. I did, as an author. I gave these people, humanity. And perhaps humanity is a narrow spectrum from which to experience things, but it's the only spectrum I know, and you gotta write what you know. So I gave them some of these monsters a relatively human aspect as far as their experiences go, how they got from A to B to Z, all the way to Z, rather. Not every author has been able to do that, not without wasting a bunch of time. And I think that's one of the things I have going for me as an author, because I come from a film background, and as a screenwriter, you got to be brief in your action statements. You can't do it like you do in a book. He looked at the curtain. The curtain was paisley, and the paisley curtain reminded him of the fields he used to run through as a child. No, you can't do that. You have to, it would, in a film or television script, it would be he looks at the paisley curtains with reminiscence. That's it, with reminiscence, and that's up to the actor to go, And so brevity is key. And I had a very hard time learning that lesson, and I incorporated it, but I did learn it, and I learned it so well I put it in my book stuff. And I go into some detail here and there, but the book has been credited, both of them have been credited as being, they move. That's the word I keep getting. They move. They have a flow. They have a tempo, and it's heart-pounding, nonstop action, adrenaline. There's a little bit of a break here and there, but for the most part, this book, both books really, and the third one too, puts the pedal to the metal and does not let up at all. And I don't sound like that on purpose. I don't want you to take a breath. And there are a couple little breaks in there, but as soon as you get, finally, off you go down the next road to the next adventure, and so on and so forth. So that is essentially TOL. I'm going to talk a lot more about this on a future episode of Down the Rabbit Hole with David. We're going to record that tomorrow, I think. I don't know when it's going to air, though. So if you want to know more about TOL, not only go to the website that you see scrolling, and again, we just started building the whole media thing. So bear with us. So go there in a couple of 3-4 days, and you'll be able to check that out. And you can watch David's interview with me to learn more about the TOL, as I've only spent a half hour talking about it, so some of this information may repeat, but I haven't given you everything. So I got to say something for David's show. In fact, I barely scratched the surface, to be completely honest with you. So if you want to know more, well, you have to wait a bit. Okay, so let's get off of TOL for just a moment and go back to, and you'll have to forgive me as I go into a couple things here. Where is it? There we go. No, that's not it. That's not it either. Where is it? Darn it, it's not there. Okay. Well, we'll just stick with this one for now. So these are planners trying to erect another temple just like it in the background, which I don't know why they thought this was a good move, but they did. Let's see here. There we go. Hey, my thing changed. That's weird. Is that it? Yeah, there it is. Okay. So, our Egyptian friends here, going back to the paranormal, the true paranormal, are planning to build a pyramid with very, very well handwritten plans. I found that kind of interesting. AI is so much fun. Beg your pardon. As we take a look at this, I also want you to remember that similar plans were being drawn up in the Mesoamerican era. And basically these things were built within, say, 1,000 years of each other, give or take. I think that's correct. And one has to wonder why. Now, here's where we get into ancient alien theory. And I'm actually going to change my slideshow. If it'll let me. It won't let me. Okay, good times. Yeah. Okay, let's do that one. So, one of the things I have here, if it plays. Well, anyway, one of the things I have here is our look at ancient aliens. Why am I going back to ancient aliens? Because I think it deserves a look, for starters. And secondly, I think we're looking at a form of what is going on with that. Sorry, technical difficulties behind the scenes here. Yeah, if I hit play, you play. There you go. Alrighty. So what I'm looking to do is, if I can find the freaking things. That is irksome that I cannot find the, Alrighty. Well, let's just do that then. That is so funny. Okay, sorry. What I was trying to toy with here and get in front of you was this. You may recall this from a very recent UAP task force meeting where they showed this this thing being tracked by a drone, flying along with it, well above it, and you're about to see, yeah, there we go, an object come in, boom, there it goes, that's fun, impacted. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I go to ancient astronaut theory because, and I show you this footage because there is, it was a Tic Tac. Whether it was the Tic Tac, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, it was a Tic Tac, and if you if I could get the scroller to come up. I can't find the controls of this thing anywhere for this particular piece of video, which irks me to no end, I must say. Let me see. Huh. Anyway, I was showing you the Tic Tac because we have seen these before. Now they've been put in our. Pardon me. Yeah, thought went away. Sorry. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Let me kill that banner real quick. I don't want to show it for just 10 seconds, though. Okay, well, hopefully it doesn't. It does. It counts. That's dumb. I don't know why that's happening either. Fun with technology. If you want to join us, hop in the chat, say hey, and again, open mic. Come on down and talk to me about what you want to talk to me about. There we go. I'll just do that. New timer. Timer disabled. Good. Save it. Ta-da! So I will show this. There we go. So if you want to join us, follow that link, hop in the chat, and we'll see about giving you a link to hop on and chat with me live. So, okay, so Tic Tac, Ancient Aliens, what's the connection? Well, we've been seeing these things throughout history. We have depictions of these things throughout human history. Why am I bringing this up in relationship to Mesoamerican and Egyptian cultures coming up side by side? Because we have seen these things, these objects, in the ancient culture as well. Both ancient cultures are replete with this stuff. There's an emperor in Mesoamerican stuff whose sarcophagus headstone, the capstone rather, shows him flying a ship. It's clearly a rocket ship. Clearly. Primitive notions of said ship but it's it's obviously a ship. It has rockets, controls, a little breathing apparatus that goes up his nose. So, now I have to put a pause on that because I just got asked a question about the book, and I just saw what year is the book set in. The books are set in the present day. Just so you know. Thank you for that question regarding the books. I appreciate that. Yeah. But getting back to the whole Tic Tac thing / ancient alien thing. So, I kind of feel like the ancient astronaut theory is something of a, not entirely, but something of an excuse. I think it's only half the answer. That we were influenced and or modified and or whatever. And we can all look at the second genetic marker in our DNA. Chromosome. Second chromosome in our DNA and see that the telomeres were bound in a really strange way. Could a mutation account for that? Possibly. However, geneticists who examine this stuff say no. And that's kind of where ancient astronaut theory kind of begins, is with the modification of the human being and the use of spacecraft, including a Tic Tac. Like, that's why I showed the Tic Tac video. So if we have all that linked together in our minds, from genetics to vehicles to cultures that were influenced and potentially outside cultures that influence, and some say continue to influence us, why are we not having a larger conversation about it? Now, we've had Grush and all the other whistleblowers hop on the air, put their lives at risk, I might add. Alonzo, all those guys, in a Senate meeting, telling their stories about how they have seen these vehicles, seen these extraterrestrial entities, both dead and alive. And we've heard across multiple countries from officials in very high positions from France, England, Canada, I just blanked on what the Dutch are called, Netherlands. But I mean, all over the Netherlands, really. But Germany, Chile, Brazil, Peru. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have all these countries talking about not only ancient vehicles or seeing similar vehicles in ancient times in their ancient cultures, but they're describing, one, very similar, if not identical vehicles. Two, they're describing very similar, if not identical entities, alien entities. And three, most of them, understandably, were referenced or revered as gods because they had such high technology compared to us. Now, if you look at the Sumerian drawings, and this is going back a number of thousands of years, and we've been having this whole ancient alien interaction thing, if you want to stick with that thing, with that premise, rather. If you want to stick with that premise that we've been manipulated throughout our ancient times, even into our modern times, by an alien force, an outside force, you're still seeing a lot of similarities between the past and the present. And big middle finger to the spam bot that just hit the chat. Sorry. So if you have all these things, and again, around the world, essentially, you're having this happen in ancient times and in modern times. I mean, what was it? The earliest shutdown was back in 95 was it an American nuclear facility, missile facility? 95, that's not that long ago. 20 years ago, if I did my math right. And I've heard rumor and report that it's still happening today. They're just not reporting it to the public. But something about I want to say Taiwan or Korea. Was it Korea? Maybe North Korea. Or either North Korea or South Korea or Taiwan. One of those three. Again, I'm not that politically savvy or strategically savvy. One of those three have have nuclear capabilities, or at least ballistic capabilities, long-range ballistic capabilities. And their craft came in, shut them down. And that was way more recently than 95. I want to say it was like last year before. So we're still being influenced and controlled to a degree, not probably as much as in the past, but someone or something is still coming in saying no, swatting the back of our hand, if you will, telling us bad simians or bad hominids or whatever we are. And it's something that always seems to happen throughout our history. Cultures rise up, they collapse for one reason or another. But many of them, especially in our ancient past, seem to have that outside influence from these ancient aliens. Now, to give you perspective on how advanced they are compared to us, and this is just, I'm drawing parallels between stories. That in one story, I think in either, I want to say China, there's the story of a dragon that came in breathing fire the whole time and landed on a platform that was built out in the middle of nowhere, but it was witnessed. They called it a dragon because there was all this fire coming out of it. Interesting, to say the least. Easy parallel to draw between the mythical creature and whatever this thing was, this craft, we'll call it. And another story, specifically the Sumerians, I believe, if not the Mesopotamians, which was a little bit later, in their tablets, they actually show what these ships look like. And the same thing with the Chinese story. It's actually written out and they actually drew a picture of it. But the Sumerian craft and the Chinese craft have similarities. What are they? Rockets. They had chemical burning accelerators, engines of some sort, not unlike our modern rockets today. And so if you're in something that is, we'll call it, again, it's the American perspective, but we'll call it the Apollo era type of more modern rocketry. Or even the upcoming Orion era technology. You're still dealing with a culture that some 5,000 to 6,000, or is it longer than that? More like 10 to 15,000 years ago had Apollo/Orion level rocketry capabilities. Okay, so that's how far advanced they are compared to us. They're about 15,000 years in advance of us. Assuming we're dealing with this exact same culture, alien culture. And it seems to be they had different names for them across the different cultures, but there's a lot of similarities and stuff too. So, and I kind of lost my train of thought. Welcome to Mish Mosh. Anyway, one of the things, what I'm trying to really kind of put out there is that if this guy, this Tic Tac guy, is something merely that is a little bit more advanced, and don't feed me Lockheed Martin prototype, because I do not believe that for a second. Trust me, I worked in that space for a few years, and they are nowhere near this. They're lucky they got to the F-47. Okay? They are nowhere near this at the private level. Or at, the defense level. Not really. And maybe they're 25 to 50 years ahead of the rest of the world, but that is not 50 years ahead. I call that easily a century or two ahead of us. So, I submit then, I guess, that the Tic Tac technology and similar craft that we've been seeing in more modern times have their cousins, if you will, in the past, as far as the larger human recollection of these craft and what have you, and the aliens controlling them, the entities, the biological entities controlling them, have they influenced us? I would say partially. Certainly gave rise to a lot of really interesting stories and recounts of various things across the globe, literally. But what does this do for us as humans? Because we look up and we see this stuff, and it's like, nowadays it seems, look at that. That's weird. Are we being invaded? Oh, look, something political has happened, or another war has started up here on Earth, or a disaster has struck one coast or another. And we go back to looking after ourselves. So it's bizarre to me that if the ancient aliens influence is still present, that we're not seeing more interaction like our ancient ancestors did. Probably. Is there a reason for that? I'd say probably. I think we take more pot shots at them, to be completely honest with you. I mean, it's an invasion of airspace, and sometimes we do something about it, other times we don't, because we can't. I mean, with the and here's kind of the proof that doing something doesn't really equal anything. This you see these 3 points here? That's after the missile that was fired at it by a drone, I might add. So one drone tracked it, lased it, painted the target, and another drone fired a rocket at it. Pretty heavy duty rocket too. The name of it escapes me, but it did not detonate. So it was rendered inert in flight, and then either parts of it or parts of this craft flaked off and didn't fall. Just tracked with this thing as it moves off screen. So here's, it doesn't matter, is what I'm saying, I guess. I guess that's ultimately what I'm saying. We do not have the ability to really inflict that much damage on these things, assuming they're not going way faster, as we've seen demonstrated in the past, than our vehicles and weapons can go. And they don't even do that much damage. Knock this thing a little silly for a little while, but the reality is, I don't know. We're not quite there yet, I guess, is the reality, to really do anything about it. So, gosh, I was kind of all over the place. This Mish Mosh was a really bad Mish Mosh, because I kind of tuned into half-spoken points, and I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Usually a little more put together than that. Sorry, we got on TOL, and I just kind of keep thinking about, hey, I should have mentioned this. But anyway, I don't want to give too much away, because I have my interview with David tomorrow from Down the Rabbit Hole. So tune in to that when it airs. I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow. I don't think it's live. I think it's pre-recorded. But there's that. And you know what? Thank you. I got 5 of you out there watching me. 4 now. Because I said thank you and goodbye. And all the wonderful people in the chat. Heidi and Mort and Cherry, to mention a couple. I said Cherry again. It's Sherry. So sorry. But yeah, let's call it a wrap on today. And we'll talk more about the TOL with Down the Rabbit Hole. And I'll bring it up again in the next episode as well. Hopefully I'll have more pictures of you to show of our actual leads. Poor Charleston. Got left out of the mix. But next time, I'll have him in there. And I'm updating our promo stuff as we go. So hopefully by next week, I'll have a big, beautiful website for you to look at and all that fun stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim Sedano. This is Paranormal Insight. And next time, I'll let you know. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of the week. And if I'm not live next week, which I think I will be, I wish you happy holidays, because I know there's a couple of early holidays coming up for some folks. But until next week, my name's Tim Sedano, Paranormal Insight. You have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com.